experienced gCADPlus users will use layers to separate various parts of their design. For example, if I select this blue line here, let's zoom in on it and come over into the properties box, you can see it's on a layer called L_water and line type BS water line. That line type is actually not part of gCADPlus, but of course gCADPlus can accommodate AutoCAD line types. We're in the habit of, if we're going to create a new layer, call it L-, and the reason for that is if we just zoom out a little, this one here, this is on a separate layer called viewport boundary. But if we go to the layers dialog box, it's really quite powerful and you can do a lot with this box. You could click at the top of columns and change, now it's in reverse order. You can play with locking whole groups of layers and so on. What I want to do, draw your attention to, which is probably not something that a beginner would tackle, but if we come over here in this part of the box, click there and you can create a whole series of layers and give them a name. So for example, I've obviously got one called All On, but if I click on this one, notice they are all on if you look here, and if I say restore that and then we OK it, can you see that we've got a layer now which would work for our construction team. Each symbol, and let's click on this one, which is for the selected varieties of apples, it's on layer 0, but we've turned off the fancy sort of symbology. We've got other uses in that and other things we can get at. If we click there again, if we wanted, maybe we wanted to isolate just the lighting layer, so I could say restore that, and now lots of layers are turned off, but just those layers would do with lighting on, and I think the construction layer was also on. But can you see now we've isolated just layers, just elements that are to do with lighting. One interesting point that is revealed here is that the designer here very cleverly has got separate lines for the power leading away from the power source and into the garden. So clearly here in this zone there's a tall deciduous tree which is illuminated with lighting. But again, as is my wont, I digress a little. Doing things like this, isolating groups of layers so you can just work on the lighting in this instance, reveals some little tiny errors in your design work. So if we click on this little symbol here, let me just escape and we'll just do it on its own. It's a symbol called U-Plant Climber, but it's been put on a layer called L symbol, and we really need to put that back on layer 0, and it disappears because with this particular lighting layer states manager, we've got layer 0 turned off. Even though it's still current, it's turned off. So clearly these 3 symbols here were just inadvertently put on the wrong layer. They do have elements in that L plant symbol layer, and when we go back to all on, and we can do that now, we go in here, we can say let's have everything on, and we'll close that. All layers come back on. Why didn't they come back on? Because I missed the crucial point, which is all on, but I need to restore it. And okay, so there's a few tricks here. You have to create a layer, a layer states manager, give it a name and set the on-off switches for that particular layer state, and then you have to remember when you're swinging from one to the other to recall. So that's a particularly powerful tool and a quick way to work. So in a design such as this, you might want to have a group of layers that enable you to place furniture correctly, and that, although you can manage it by going to the furniture layer and just turning it off and the cars and the tables and chairs and things disappear, it can be worth making a number of layer state sets quite early on in your design work and then calling them up as you see fit. So once you get a little experience with gCADPlus, do experiment with those layer states.